correct.
The candidate most likable is somehow not electable. That's the story from the editorial board. We'd like to save the world when it's under attack, but how you gonna pay for that?
I won't just turn the car around. I'm going to shut it off, I'm going to kick you out, and I'm going to make you walk home.
When people want proof that the world ain't flat, we'll just give them their money back. Oh yeah! We heard what you want to do. Now we'll tell you what's best for you. That's the story from the editorial board.
Best concert? Yeah, Steve Miller Band and the Eagles.
A little tip for the working man. Your employers are all our friends. That's the story from the editorial board. That's the story from the editorial board. We'd like to save the world when it's under attack, but how you gonna pay for that? Ow!
I won't just turn the car around. I'm going to shut it off, I'm going to kick you out, and I'm going to make you walk home.
When people want proof that the world ain't flat, we'll just give them their money back. Oh yeah! That's the story from the editorial board. That's the story from the editorial board. That's the story from the editorial board. That's the story from the editorial board.
I want an answer. It's not something you ignore.
I think you're 100% full of shit.
Whoa, now hold it there.
Oh my goodness.
All right, how's it going, everybody? We are live. That's right, live stream chat. What's going on? Pat Rod, Jim. Those are the two I got on the live stream chat. Ben, do you have a song of the day in mind?
Yeah, I do. I could have a song of the day.
We went from I do to I could. Okay, all right. It's gonna be one.
Yeah, I got one. Yeah.
All right. Well, Pat Rod has one if you need it. All right.
I got one. Okay, cool. Ugh, doesn't matter to me. One or the other.
Let's get today's show going here. Before we go any further, we got to thank the following unions for sponsoring this program. Unions like the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150 are sponsors, as well as our dear friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. All right. Oh, by the way, guys, heads up, wicked construction going on at my place today. I think the fellers are on lunch break right now because there's not much going on. But it woke me up this morning at like 7, just bang, bang, oh, just yelling and all kinds of construction. They shut my water off. So if you hear that in the background, that's what that is. Ben, how are things going in the attic, by the way? Let's get an attic update.
You know, it's kind of quiet in the attic today, G. The windows are closed, so I can't hear the brown line, and there's no activity at the porta potty. I'll bring you updates as they become available. This is Ben Joravsky reporting into the Dr. D News. Back to you, Dr. D.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll do the request here. Pat Rod says, see if Ben knows the song Go All the Way by the Raspberries. Do you know that song?
Can I pretend I don't know it? And so I will have a shred of dignity left over for me.
Well, why?
I actually know that song. I do know that song.
I've never heard of that. Tell us a little bit about this song.
All I'll tell you a little bit about it. It came out approximately 12 years before you were born. I would say it was 1972 or early 70s. I remember driving around in my friend's car. Gas was like 37 cents a gallon. Please go all the way to G. Woo, woo, woo. And I was like, oh, that's such a great song. I was 15 years old. Oh, I love the Raspberries. I'm a little embarrassed to admit any of this.
As you should be.
When you said that song, I'm like, oh, yeah, memories. I can't believe I didn't know it was Summertime Blues immediately.
Yeah, I knew that,
from
actually.
Yesterday. Mm-hmm. You knew that?
I think I've heard like a...
no cure for the summertime blues. G. It like came to me afterwards. Getting old, folks, is no joke.
The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. It is Thursday, August 6th, and live from my apartment at Ben's attic, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, Ben Joravsky talks tiffs, and it's another cannabis conversation with Lisa Solomon and Eddie Armstrong. And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Bernie's Back Thursday. And here's why. Got a press release this morning, D, from Bernie Sanders. Senator Bernie Sanders himself personally sent me a press release.
You take 10% of the other 10%, and that gives you 10%.
Yep, that Bernie Sanders. Been a long time since I got to hear Dr. D do his Bernie Sanders. I've missed it, quite frankly.
Well, I've missed Bernie Sanders, quite frankly.
With you 100%. But this was a press release from Bernie's Senate office, not his presidential campaign, because as we all know, his presidential campaign is over. He has already declared his support for Joe Biden. I know that has irritated some of my friends of the leftist persuasion, of the far leftist persuasion, who are really struggling with voting for Joey B. And they kind of wanted Bernie to just, remain defiant till the end. But no, Bernie is a good sport, and he believes that Donald John Trump should be defeated. So he's in all 100% for Joey B, Joe Biden. So
he's a good sport, while everyone else not so much a good sport. Politics is damn dirty. But hey, Bernie's a good sport. Way to go.
Bernie is a good sport. Yes, he is. All right. So, but just because his campaign is over, ladies and gentlemen, does not mean his movement has ended. And what does Micah always tell us, D?
I know he tells us that. A big, boomy voice that guy's got.
Micah has a booming voice, and Miles Kauflas, not so much a booming voice, although he does look like a rock star, Jim Morrison. But they both tell us, these are our friends of the far leftist persuasion who come on our show all the time, particularly Miles. They always tell us it's bigger than a movement, one man, right? The movement's bigger than a man. Oh, I almost screwed that up. Talk to your kids. Say words to your kids. It's one of those days.
You could be a presidential candidate, Ben.
I could be. I could mispronounce Yosemite Sam as easily as Trump can. All right. Anyway. So Bernie is still on the case. God bless him. He sent out this press release along with Kirsten Gillibrand and Ed Markey, two other senators. And here's what the headline says. Sanders and colleagues introduced tax on billionaires' wealth gains to provide health care for all. Oh, yes. Health care for all. Remember that, D? That was the big talk last summer. God, I can't help myself. I keep hearing that butter cow guy. Last summer, when the debates were going on, everybody was trying to, figure out a way to promote better health care for all, without alienating swing voters in Wisconsin. Remember that, D? And Amy Klobuchar was saying, you're gonna lose if you provide health care for all. We can't win with that. Oh God, memories. Seems like another lifetime. Anyway, Bernie's still on the case. Healthcare for all is
a mission that he's dedicated the better part of his adult life to, and it's needed more than ever, I would say, D, in the middle of a pandemic. Back to Bernie's plan, he is proposing a 60% tax on windfall wealth increases of billionaires during the pandemic. This is just a tax on the amount of money that the billionaires, the wealthiest of, I think it's like 467 billionaires in America made just between March and August during the pandemic. And so his quote is somehow, listen, folks, I've not been able, I'm just reading the press release here. So this is not like great investigative journalism. So I have not checked out the numbers, but I'm just throwing this out here. This is Bernie's estimates. After the show today, Dennis will do a deep dive, spend a couple hours going through.
I will.
I was just seeing if you're paying attention, going through all the records to see if they bear out. But here's what Kirsten Gillibrand, Ed Markey, and Bernie Sanders has sent out, taxing $731 billion in wealth accumulated by 467 billionaires, which represents, this is classic Bernie, he has to have a percentage in here, D, 0.001% of America. So that's
0.001% of America.
Exactly. And that is $731 billion. Say that one, Bernie.
Yes, that's billion with a B.
Thank you, Mayor Lori Lightfoot, for helping us. According to Bernie, this is my favorite part of the calculations. I can just see Bernie at his kitchen table in Vermont with the little calculator. Here, listen, calculator. Hear the sound of the calculator, D?
Man, you are bringing it on these sound effects today.
That's
stellar.
Radio.
That's stellar, buddy.
Back in the old days, we would announce baseball games, and we wouldn't be at the park. So we would do things like, there's a base hit to left field.
Anyway, that's the calculator. Bernie working at his kitchen table, and he figured out the tax would still leave billionaires with $310 billion in wealth gains. And this is just between March and August. So these 467 billionaires brought home $310 billion in wealth gains, even if they were taxed at the Bernie rate. So hold on, let's see how much that would leave them over with. D, hold on, I got my calculator. Here we go.
Oh, you listen to this, Dan Biss? Oh, right. Eat your heart out, pal.
You know that Dan Biss be like, oh, Ben, I could do that in my head. Okay, who needs a calculator? Danny Biss would be like, oh my God, a calculator. So 1980s. Anyway, that would leave you with $660 million. That's million with an M. So that's just the amount of wealth between March and August. If you made sure that these 467 billionaires paid the Bernie tax. Let's see, how much would Jeff Bezos pay, you asked, Dennis? Good question. $42.8 billion. How much would Elon Musk pay? Excellent question, Dennis. $27.5 billion. Now, I know what you're thinking. I could read your mind. Hey, stop thinking about porno.
Hey!
I just went into your mind, and that's what I saw.
That's not what I'm thinking about.
Oh, okay. Stop thinking about LeBron James, all right? Concentrate on politics. Mark Zuckerberg, that's what you should be thinking about. He would pay $22.8 billion. $22.8 billion with a B. And the Walton family of Walmart, $12.9 billion. So if Bernie's tax was implemented, this is just the amount that the wealthiest people in America would pay for the last, 4 or 5 months? That's a lot of money, ladies and gentlemen. And that's a lot of computers that we could buy people, the kids in the city of Chicago. That's improving all the internet installations, internet service throughout the city of Chicago. God, I'm having a Joe Biden day. But Bernie wants to dedicate it to healthcare, so I'm with him 100% on this. Great idea, I think. Meanwhile, up in Wisconsin, trying to prevent this from ever happening, those dastardly Republicans that are up to their dastardly deeds. Oh, yeah. Wisconsin, of course, key swing state in our crazy electoral system. We talked yesterday about Professor Lichtman's prediction that Joe Biden would defeat Donald Trump. But of course, What Mr. Lichtman did not take into consideration is that we have an insane electoral college system, so that even if a vast majority of Americans vote to oust Donald Trump, he could still get to stay in the White House by virtue of winning Wisconsin. Wisconsin was the key state, one of the key states last time in 2016 when Trump defeated Hillary Clinton. So he needs to win Wisconsin to hold on to the White House and do whatever he can to keep things like Bernie's billionaire tax from becoming a reality. And how is he going to do that? The key to winning Wisconsin for Donald Trump means minimizing the black vote, which, as we all know, is overwhelmingly against Trump. I had a clip that I sent to Dennis. I don't think it worked, about LeBron, something LeBron James said. He's on my mind today because I heard him say this. Did you get that clip, D?
Yeah, I found it here. Hold on. You don't think it worked?
Well, let's see.
Well, you are having a Joe Biden day. It'll probably play some ads.
Yeah, let's see. Dennis, play the LeBron James tape.
Yeah, it's got an ad first. So, you sent it to me like a minute before the show.
Hey, come on. Huh?
Come on, Biden.
I'll just tell you what it says. LeBron James, the great basketball player for the Los Angeles Lakers, was asked a question about Donald John Trump, and immediately said he didn't care what Donald John Trump had to say. Trump is upset because NBA players are taking a knee during the season that's continued in the bubble in Florida. Almost all the NBA players are taking a knee to protest against racism and police brutality. And LeBron James essentially said, I don't care what Donald John Trump says. I don't care if he stops watching our game. And the big showdown will be in November, and he was urging people to vote in November against Trump. So it's pretty clear from what LeBron James had to say that there's this overwhelmingly growing movement. Oh, you got it, D?
I really don't think the basketball community are sad about losing his viewership, him viewing the game. That's all I gotta say. I don't want to. I'm not gonna get into because I already know where this could go, where it could lead to for tomorrow for me. I'm not gonna get into it, but I think our game is in a beautiful position, and we have fans all over the world. And our fans not only love the way we play the game, we try to give it back to them with our commitment to the game, but also respect. What else we try to bring to the game and acknowledging, what's right and what's wrong, and I hope everyone, no matter the race, no matter the color, no matter the size, would see what leadership that we have at the top in our country, and understand that November is right around the corner, and it's a big moment for us as Americans. If we continue to talk about we want better, won't change. We have an opportunity to do that. So, but the game will go on without his eyes on it. I can sit here and speak for all of us that love the game of basketball. We could care less.
November, right around the corner. Good job, D, by the way. Can we, everybody, give a round of applause to Dr. D, because that was quick.
Thank you.
Right
Thank
before
you.
the show. D, here. It's not like when Dave Glowacz comes on and it's like an hour or two beforehand, so he has plenty of time to set Dennis up for that quick little, Dennis, could you play LeBron James?
And you just send a link, and it could be like 3 minutes long. Yo, D, play that! Like, okay. And I just hit play.
Anyways,
Or you send me a website with like 4 different audio things. I'm like, okay, which one is it, dude? I don't know, man. Play it.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's a saint. He puts up with me every day. Every day there's a variation on the D, do this. D, the air conditioning just kicked on. Woo, feeling better already. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah, November's right around the corner. LeBron James, let it be known. That, remember I love how he did that, D. He starts off by saying, I don't want to get into it because whatever I say now, we'll get a response from him, and then you'll ask me tomorrow about it. I'll be doing this. And then he can't help himself. LeBron James cannot stand Donald John Trump. I think he despises him even more than I do. He couldn't help himself. November's right around the corner. Well, LeBron James, I know you're listening to the show right now. You're a big listener. I'm going to tell you right now.
He loves the Monroe segment.
He does. He loves Monroe.
Oh, and he thinks Adolfo just curses way too much. Adolfo Mondragon.
Well, LeBron actually was victorious in the over-under on Adolfo Mondragon. He made a bet with D. Wade. Did you hear about this, D? They were betting on how many seconds before Adolfo dropped the first F-bomb, and LeBron defeated D. Wade. Yeah, D. Wade had to pay him. I think it was like $1,000. So anyway, working overtime to undercut the efforts by LeBron James and other Americans is the Republican Party, Donald John Trump. There's two ways, as I say, to minimize the black votes. The first is to literally suppress it, kick black people off the voting rolls on the flimsiest of reasons, close voting booths so they're deterred from voting. This is what happens in Wisconsin, what's been going on in Milwaukee. We all know that. And the other is to divert those who do vote with frivolous campaigns. Hence, Kanye West of the birthday party. The man is clearly struggling with mental health issues. This is the latest from the New York Times. I'll just read this to you. During an appearance in South Carolina last month, Kanye West broke down crying. He later tweeted that his wife, Kim Kardashian, quote, tried to bring a doctor to lock me up. Amid his erratic behavior, his wife has spoken out about her husband's struggles with mental illness, and Mr. West has publicly apologized to his wife for some of his comments. All right. Meanwhile, about 2 months ago, Kanye West launched his presidency, his campaign for presidency. He explained that he was going to use a Wakanda-like management approach, referring to the fictitious country from Black Panther. His running mate is Michelle Tidball, a self-described biblical life coach based in Cody, Wyoming, where the Wests have a ranch. Ms. Tidball, according to TMZ, once advocated making beds and doing dishes as a way to treat mental illness. So that's Kanye West's running mate. That's his campaign. It was something that erupted at a press conference about a month or two ago. I don't think Kanye West himself has made one move in the direction of making his campaign a reality. And yet, up in Wisconsin, there are efforts to gather the signatures they need to put Kanye West's name on the ballot as a presidential candidate. And it turns out, we talked about this yesterday, there's more details in today's New York Times, that guess who's running that effort? Republican operatives. I read you the lead. The effort to get Kanye West on the ballot as a third-party candidate in several states is increasingly looking like an operation run by President Trump's allies and Republican activists that is aimed at diverting votes from Joe Biden. The strategy became overt on Tuesday when Lane Rulin, a lawyer who has worked for the Trump campaign, delivered ballot signatures to Wisconsin election officials on behalf of the West campaign. The Milwaukee Journal Sentinel also reported that at least 5 other people connected to Mr. West's Wisconsin bid are active in the Republican Party or are Trump supporters. Several other people active in the party include Mark Jacoby, an executive at a company called Let the Voters Decide, which has been collecting signatures for the West campaign in Ohio, West Virginia, and Arkansas. Mr. Jacoby was arrested on voter fraud in 2008 while he was doing work for the California Republican Party, and he later pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor. What did Donald John Trump have to say about this? Well, once he wiped the smile off his face, he said that he had no knowledge of what Kanye West was doing. He also spared Kanye West the type of criticism he usually unleashes against anyone who opposes him, as Mr. West ostensibly would be doing. Yeah, that's the big joke. As if Kanye West is actually running, legitimately running, and as if he's running against Donald Trump. Donald Trump knows that the only reason Kanye West serves any purpose in this coming election is to siphon votes from Joe Biden. Look, I know there are lefties out there who will never, ever, ever vote for a centrist like Joe Biden. I know it, D. I know they wouldn't vote for Hillary Clinton. I know they wouldn't vote for Barack Obama. I know they wouldn't vote for Bill Clinton. John Kerry. I know this. I live among many lefties, hardcore lefties, okay? But just to give them an option, just to make it easier for a few other voters not to vote for Biden, Trump and his operatives are propping up Kanye West. Folks, this is the most hardball, machine-style politics you can imagine. This is straight out of the Michael Joseph Madigan playbook. Anything to protect those billionaires from Bernie. We got a great show today, everybody. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Armstrong will be here.
Come on. Woo!
Yeah, man, I'm all fired up. Man, I saw that Kanye West shenanigans. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to hear it. Republicans in Illinois weeping over Michael Madigan. Why aren't you criticizing what the Republican Party is doing in Wisconsin? No, they're sobbing over Michael Madigan. Remember when that kid wanted to run for alderman against Michael Madigan's candidate down in the 13th ward? Remember all the crying the Republicans had? The Tribune was weeping. Article after article about how could he play these dastardly machine politics. How could they deny voters the opportunity to go one-on-one against machine operatives and machine aldermen? This is just a dastardly attack on our democratic principles, small d democratic principles. But they're awfully silent when Trump's operatives are Wisconsin propping up Kanye West to try to divert votes from Joe Biden. Anyway, Eddie Armstrong will be here. He's a former state rep from Arkansas. Used to be the leader of the Democrats in the state house in Arkansas. He knows a thing or two about dealing with Republicans in a Republican-led House in a Republican-led legislative body. So we'll be talking to him about politics. He's also got a cannabis country. We're doing some cannabis company. So we'll do some cannabis conversation.
And he's an Arkansas man, is that right? Like you said?
Well, he now lives in the city of Chicago, but he's from Arkansas.
And maybe he has. Maybe you can bring up your latest riff on Bill Clinton with him.
Oh yeah, I already brought it up to him when I talked to him yesterday. I win, ladies and gentlemen. I wrote it for the reader yesterday. I am so sick and tired of William Jefferson Clinton, Bill Clinton. Cut the cord. Come on, Dems, cut that cord. You should sever yourself from Bill Clinton. He's nothing but an anchor that's dragging the party down.
And let him hear your Bill Clinton impression, you know?
I like Eddie Armstrong. Eddie Armstrong's outstanding young politician from Little Rock. Had a childhood sweetheart in Little Rock.
Now you're kind of doing Obama there, but work on it.
Yeah,
work on it before he comes on, and let him hear that Bill Clinton.
Wait, hold on. Here we go. Hold on. I love Dr. D.
There it is.
Dr. D and Eddie Armstrong are two of my favorite people.
Yeah, get that southern drawl.
Sweetheart.
Get that southern drawl in there. Let's really make him happy.
I love Dr. D. Hey, Dr. D played that LeBron James tape. It was really masterful radio. He must have gone to radio school. That's Bill Clinton, all right? But you're right. Somehow or other, Barack Peanut Butter Cup. D, I'm trying, man. I'm trying my imitation. I got to broaden them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got the Valley Girl. I got to go beyond that. All right? Got to feature and stand up.
Well, let's hear that Valley Girl real quick. Fred on the live stream chat loves this.
The Valley Girl?
Yeah.
I'm voting for Kanye because I believe in the birthday party and I don't trust any politicians. Yeah.
All right, that's enough.
Kardashian. Yeah, that's my Valley Girl. Which I kind of use for everybody, by the way. You ever notice that, D?
Yes.
Anyway, what's the news, young man? I know you got news, huh?
Oh, you're not going to call me Dr. Doobie, huh?
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. But before we get to that, the young man from Alton, the man that Eddie Armstrong, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama, and the Valley Girls all refer to, Dr. Doobie, with the news.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Not a doctor. Hey, and remember, vote blue no matter who.
Play the radio.
Yes.
Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night. The phone. Make sure the kids hear words.
No matter who.
D, you got to make sure kids hear words. How many times have I told you that? Okay? Get out there and make sure they hear words.
Good Lord. All right, it's time to find out. Oh, by the way, guys, construction going on right outside of my apartment. Like wicked construction. I'm talking just heavy machinery. Wait, is Ed Maher out there? It's pretty wicked. All right, let's find out what's happening in Chicago and or Illinois this afternoon. Now, if this were any other Illinois media outlet or program, it'd be considered a slow news day. But not here on the Ben Joravsky Show. Oh, no, because today in the local news, there are two things that our host loves to rant and rave like a lunatic about.
Number one.
Downstate Illinois State Rep DB Darren Bailey. And
Number two.
tax increment financing, a.k.a. TIFs. Yes, several tangents within tangents on the way. But first, a Chicago pandemic update. Now, we've been keeping a close eye on the city of Chicago as it deals with this damn dirty coronavirus. And people, you all know, it has been a roller coaster. We've seen restaurants, businesses, and bars close down and open back up, then close back down again, then open back up. But ever since March 26th, back when the pandemic began, Chicago beaches have been closed. And the following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and the Sun-Times staff. Chicagoans will soon be able to enjoy a chilled beverage, a doobie if you're lucky, and a delicious meal at their favorite beachfront restaurants. But the beaches themselves still remain closed. Yes, Ben Joravsky, you'll have to keep that Chicago Bulls beach towel in the closet a little longer because the beaches in Chicago are still closed. But you can enjoy a nice meal by the beach. Ben, your thoughts? Is this a smart move to keep the beaches closed still?
No, I've never understood it. I mean, like, everybody always, I got to start like how everybody, I am not a doctor. You know, we used to do that gag, D. We've been doing that gag for 3 years now. Everybody does it. You know, like before they have to opine about the pandemic, right? They go, well, I'm not a doctor. And then they opine like they were a doctor. Okay. So, you know, so I'll just start. I am not a doctor, D, but I do not understand what larger purpose is served by closing the beaches and yet opening the restaurants along the beaches. I don't know, D. It would seem to me that it'd be easier to spread the virus if you're sitting at a restaurant as opposed to laying on a beach. Just saying that, D. But again, D, not a doctor, okay? And by the way, I don't know if I said this last week. Maybe that was Joe Biden moments. I can't remember what I said last week. But I had a couple friends come over to the house, and they were telling me about, we were all social distancing, just want to let you know, spread out around.
Yeah, don't come arrest him, Lori.
Hold on. Get out of here. But that was me getting arrested. So they were telling me about how they went swimming. They're not from Chicago. So they met up with some friends that they had in Chicago. And the friend said, hey, let's go swimming. So they took an Uber, these people being of the millennial persuasion, to the lakefront. And they went swimming off of the dock or at Belmont Harbor. And they were laughing. They were saying that the water was polluted. You know, I mean, there's a lot of boats and a lot of gasoline trails. And it was kind of scary with the boats around them. But there were dozens and dozens of people on the rocks jumping into the harbor, as polluted and smelly as the water may be, because it was a really hot day that day. And I explained the reason all these people were at the Belmont Harbor is because the beaches are closed. So the impact, the effect of closing the beaches was to channel all the people who wanted to go swimming from a beach where there are less boats around to run you over and less gasoline to drink because there's no boats polluting the water at that area directly, to channel them to the Belmont Harbor. So I could not understand what purpose was served by closing the beaches. But you know what, D? I'm not the mayor.
Thank God.
Mayor made her decision. So this is one where I'm not quite on board with Mayor Lori Lightfoot on, So now they're still going to close the beaches, but they're going to open the restaurants. Okay. Why don't you do both? Can't you do both? I mean, by the way, they have lifeguards. So there's lifeguards who are employed, and their job, D, is when you go to the beach to go swimming, is to tell you can't go swimming. So this is the lifeguard. The lifeguard's job is to kick you out. I will kick you out and just send you packing. So where do you go? You jump off at Belmont Harbor where the boats are. So, D, I don't understand this. I do not understand the logic that's governing the decision to close the beaches.
I think it's a PR thing. I think she doesn't want that picture of everybody at the beach at one time. That's what I think.
All right, I guess so. So better get a picture of everybody at the Belmont Harbor. Hey, at Belmont Harbor, we're gonna jump off and dodge a boat and swallow some gasoline. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, but millennials are of sturdier stock. And Z's, by the way, I want to send a shout out to Joshua Smizer de Leon. He sent me an article today, D, pointing out that there are more Z's than millennials. So we had this conversation yesterday with Jay Murray.
Here we go. Here we go. Controversy begins on the Ben Joravsky show.
No, I'm going to say nothing but nice things about Gen X. Love Gen X. Everything I said yesterday, please disregard about Gen X. Love Gen X, okay? And I love the Z's. Z's are great. Got to be nice to these people, D. They're the biggest generation out there.
And they're the ones who download our show. So, yes, please, be nice.
Okay. So, anyway, I do not understand. Back to Laura. I do not understand what the logic is here, but she's the mayor.
So, yes, beaches are still closed. The lakefront parking lots remain closed as well. And while this is good news for beach owners, beach business owners, I should say, one is a little concerned. Robbie Glick is his name. He's the owner of Reggie's on the Beach Eatery. Robbie Glick said he fears this may deter customers from coming to the restaurant. Robbie Glick said, quote, "Our parking lots aren't going to be open, so it's going to be a challenge for people to get here. But I think we'll still do good. I think people will still find a way, and it is really beautiful at our spot. So it'll be worth the trek." Hey, way to plug your business there, pal, right in the middle of that quote. Reggie's is offering a shuttle service from its South Loop location to the beach to help ease the burden on some Chicagoans. He also said people can ride their bikes on the Lakeshore Trail or park in the lot on the west side of Lakeshore Drive and then walk to the beach. We already lost half the season, so it's better than nothing, Glick said. And we're just grateful that they listen to us and are letting us open.
Well, listening to Glick's comments just underscores everything I just said. If you want to help the businesses along the beach, open up the beach. And that means there'll be less people congregated into the businesses because there'll be more people on the beach, and yet Glick can have some of the runoff. So it doesn't make any sense at all. The more I think about it, I'm going to disagree with Glick on one point. I do believe that they should prevent people from driving to the parks at this time. The total overflow. We talked about this earlier. God, I've been talking about this since March. But I do not understand why they close it. If you want to help Glick and the other restaurant owners along the lakefront, only makes sense. Open up the beaches. You got the lifeguards. I think better use of a lifeguard is to have them guarding people who are swimming as opposed to kicking off people so they jump off the rocks where there are no lifeguards. But you know what, D? I'm just a talk show host, not the mayor.
Once again, thank God. Also, hey, calling all fishermen. Come here, give me that thing. Park Bait, the bait and tackle shop on the Chicago lakefront at Montrose Harbor since the 1930s, is set to reopen this Friday after being closed since the lakefront shut down on March 26th. Ben, you're going to be there, right?
Oh, yeah, I love fishing. I don't understand why they closed that thing down. I mean, I guess they didn't want fishermen. Yeah, no fishing. I don't know. See, and then, the paper's filled with stories today. We talked about it a lot yesterday, so we're not really going to redo it. Closing the schools. You know what I mean? D, sometimes it's like our city like just jumps from one issue to the other without any regard to the issue it just left. So for instance, the schools, there's this big debate. Is it safe to send kids back to the schools? Will it infect teachers? Will the teachers infect their families? Will the kids infect each other so they go home and infect their families? You know, the Catholic schools, they say, nope, we can do it. We're going to open. A few suburban school districts are saying we can open. Chicago says, nope, I'm sorry, it's too dangerous. So we have this, you know, this focus on the schools. But a lot of people in the papers today were very critical of Lori Lightfoot for closing the schools. They think that she was bowing to the pressure of the Chicago Teachers Union. In other words, there was no reason I just think people are looking for an excuse to beat up on the Chicago Teachers Union. D, if I can take this tangent within a tangent, the Chicago Teachers Union is so reviled by sort of like mainstream Chicago. It's remarkable. I don't know of any union. Even the Fraternal Order Police is not as reviled. The Fraternal Order Police is led by a president who endorses Donald Trump. Donald Trump got 12.5% of the vote in Chicago. So you would think that the leaders of the Fraternal Order Police would be more reviled than Chicago teachers. Oh no, they're pounding Jesse Sharkey in the Tribune today about 3 cups. Boo, boo, boo. Because the teacher said, we didn't want to go back to school. We didn't want to open up the schools. It's too dangerous. So everybody's like mad at the teachers, and they think like Lori Lightfoot bent, you know, she just was going to open the schools, but she didn't because she was afraid of a teacher strike. So it's like the schools could have opened. Meanwhile, the beaches are closed. It's too dangerous to have people in an open area where they're outside, where there's no concern about ventilation. That's too dangerous. But it's okay to put them in a old classroom where the ventilation stinks and they could just pass the disease on everybody else. You got that, D? Maybe if they put the Chicago Teachers Union in charge of the lifeguards, there'll be a different attitude toward the beach. Then they'd be like, open those damn beaches. It's because the Chicago Lifeguard Union is against opening the beaches. Anyway, I would say that the opposition to the Chicago Teachers Union in the city of Chicago is perhaps stronger than the concern about health. I'm just throwing that out there, D. I'm just saying the mainstream Chicago cannot stand the Chicago Teachers Union.
All right. Once again, the bait and tackle shop on Montrose Harbor, Park Bait, will be open this Friday. Oh, I think I got one. Oh, man, it's just a damn boot.
Should have never closed it in the first place.
Threw it back in the water. All right, now let's...
boot. I didn't catch that one. I was drinking. Well, that's a good... This guy's got a million of them, ladies and gentlemen. There's those subtle ones he throws out there. You know, this is every now and then he just throws that out there. I got a boot. That's good.
All right, now let's talk tiffs. And listeners, you can't see this, but right now, at this very moment, a Chicago political podcast host is salivating and ready to talk about tax increment financing. He's a nerd. The following comes from Chicago Block Club and Hannah Alani. Now, we now know of the first building being built in the soon-to-be Lincoln Yards in Bucktown. Sterling Bay is dedicating its first Lincoln Yards building to Chicago's biotechnology needs. Sorry, poor people and people who actually need help. An 8-story life sciences-focused office building will be built on West Concord Place in Bucktown near Home Depot and longtime businesses The Hideout. Oh, you know of The Hideout, right, Ben?
Hey, Timmy Tutton. What up, T?
And Ada Street Restaurant. Sterling Bay plans to break ground on the building in early 2021. The 320,000 square foot building is planned on the southwest end of the 52-acre Lincoln Yards mega development. The news was first reported by the Tribune. Sterling-based spokeswoman Julie Gowdy told Block Club that the decision to build for the biotech industry was influenced by a surge in demand. The new Lincoln Yards building will meet the growing demand for established companies like biotech company Evozine, and for recent college graduates in need of laboratory space to launch startups. Gowdy said, quote, I hate Ben Joravsky. No, I'm just kidding. Gowdy said, quote, by creating this lab space here in the city, we're hoping we can help the city retain those companies that in the past have had to leave because they don't have the resources to stay. Evozine is a Chicago-based company. Even if we didn't have the space for them, they'd have to leave.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Everybody, just pack up and go because, it's so easy to move around in the pandemic. They're just going to leave. See ya. They're going to go to Gary. That was always the threat. Like, you keep imposing these taxes. You stop giving out TIF handouts. I'm going to Gary. I don't know anybody's gone to Gary. Monroe Anderson's from Gary. Sorry, D, I interrupted you. I apologize.
And that's all right. Now, I'm about to read something that Crane's Chicago Business reported. So,
whoa.
As I do with anything we read from this media outlet, I'm trying to book one Greg Hines for the program. I think he'd be a great interview. Our listeners would really like him. So for the love of God, don't make fun of him and his poor poker playing skills. All right. I don't even know if this is from him. I don't even know, Ben. I don't know. All right. So just lay off, dude.
If poker is in the lead, we know it's from him. If there's any reference to a 5-card stud, we know it's a Greg Hines story. So go ahead.
Cranes reported that the biomedical and biotech sectors accounted for 44% of $877 million in funding raised by 942 startups spun out from Illinois universities between 2013 and 2017. But the number of local facilities available for clinical tests hasn't kept up. In 2018, the 12.5 million square feet of commercial lab space in the Chicago area was only 1.2% vacant. Cranes reported. Way to go, by the way. You're not insulting Mr. Hines. The vacancy rate in Boston, by contrast, was 4.5%. All right, now we go to Alderman Brian Hopkins. Ben, of what ward?
Come on, D. Number 2.
Number 2.
You're right. Still a huge nerd. Okay. Alderman Brian Hopkins said in a press release that the new building will address this need. Here's the quote from Hopkins. Quote, I hate Ben Joravsky. No. Once again, just kidding.
Oh, Lord.
Hopkins said,
go
quote,
with the propaganda.
This new life sciences building will serve as a cornerstone at Lincoln Yards, creating good jobs.
Okay.
Not for people like me, but it'll create good jobs, providing vital resources to the city's growing biomedical research community and transforming the North Branch corridor into an exclusive urban environment positioned for future growth. That was pretty.
Whoa.
That was really good.
Yeah, really good.
Oh,
yeah.
Lord, that's a smart guy. Yeah.
By the way, according to the Tribunal, I read their story right before it came to the Tribune. This is not even in the TIF district. So they were building this. It's got nothing to do with the TIF. Somehow they link one to the other. This is part of what I call propaganda. So Chicagoans think, oh, this TIF is really helping me because they're building this building with this industry that more likely than not, I will never, ever work at. And won't be of any use to my most immediate concern, which is how am I going to pay the rent when I'm without a job in the middle of a pandemic and I got health bills? It absolutely no concern of no use to me in any manner. But let's get that message out there, Chicago. Oh, progress. They're creating jobs. They're keeping businesses from leaving Chicago. They were just going to go to Philadelphia or something. That's it. Going to get in the car like the Beverly Hillbillies. Going to move to where did the Beverly? They're going to just load up the truck and get out. Is that what it is? Well, that's what
Said it in the Tribune, must be true. Said it in Cranes, must be true. Not even in the TIF, ladies and gentlemen. You didn't even need that TIF. If Sterling Bay felt there was a demand for this startup building for computer geeks, and they should have spent their own money building the building. They should not have diverted money from our schools, our police, and our fire. By the way, unmentioned in that Tribune article, unmentioned by Mr. Alderman Brian Hopkins, unmentioned in the Crane story is the front page story in the Sun-Times. Chicago Police Department budget blues, $47 million plus on overtime. They blew a hole in the budget. So Mayor Lori Lightfoot is trying to figure out how she's going to patch up the budget for things that people ostensibly need right now. So now they're trying to sell us on this $1.3 billion handout to one of the largest developers in the city of Chicago, in one of the fastest gentrifying areas of the city of Chicago, that does not need assistance. Certainly is not at the top of the list of things that need assistance, but let's feed them. Let's feed them some propaganda. Open up, eat. Tastes good. Man, I read it in the Tribune, and I read it in Cranes. It's really cool. It's a startup building, and all these engineers will work there. And if they didn't build it there, they'd have gone to Milwaukee. Where are they going? We're in the middle of a pandemic. Nobody's going anywhere. We can't even figure out if we're going to open up the lakefront. Can't open the lakefront. Oh, but this company's going to just hop on out, fly off to California. No, they're going to go to Florida. We're going to move to Jacksonville, where the pandemic's raging. Chicagoans, just open up, eat. Just believe whatever they feed you. Tastes good. It's not even in the TIF, ladies and gentlemen. You didn't need to give them $1.3 billion for this project. It's not even in the TIF. It's outside the TIF. Mentioned in the Tribune. Give the Tribune credit for mentioning that. Well, it's outside, just outside the TIF. Sorry, D.
Well, don't apologize to me.
Is there any more to this story? Because I'm about to go on another riff.
We got some more here. First off, shout out to Frank. He weighed in on the live stream chat. Frank says, it's such an obnoxious talking point that if you dare to raise taxes on the rich or businesses, they'll leave. It's so effing stupid. But he didn't say effing.
Thank you for cleaning it up. Absolutely. I began the show by talking about Bernie's proposal to tax the wealthiest people in America on the money they've made in the last 6 months, while so many other people are really struggling. Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and the Walton family. All right. Bernie is proposing to tax just some of the money they made over the last 6 months to raise money for healthcare. And here in Chicago, we're like, wow, thank goodness we gave $1.3 billion to a really wealthy developer. Otherwise, somehow or other, this great project would not have happened, and they would have moved to Tennessee. I'm with you, Frank, 100%.
Yes, that's billion with a B.
Wait, I think I got something. Hold on. Wait, Crane Chicago Business Magazine.
What was that?
Threw it back in the water.
Oh, my God.
All right, the link is... go ahead.
Someone must have been reading it on the rocks and just, I don't know, went for a dip and it washed into the water. Dude.
The Lincoln Yards development is a controversial, boy, you can say that, $6 billion mega development along the north branch of the Chicago River. The project's footprint encompasses both Bucktown and Lincoln Park. Neighboring residents, business owners, and activists fought the project over the course of months of hotly contested debates, but in April 2019, City Council voted to approve a $1.3 billion in subsidies for Lincoln Yards. The Lincoln Yards TIF district, named the Cortland and Chicago River TIF, will generate at least $900 million to cover the cost of infrastructure projects to pave the way for Lincoln Yards to be built.
$900 million that you suckers and saps are paying for in the city of Chicago. But just be happy, folks. Just read that article and say to yourself, Ben, if we didn't give them that $900 million, that company would have gone to Oklahoma. Oh, okay. Well, it said so. Brian Hopkins said so, so it must be true.
Boy, you know, I can't afford rent and they're about to kick me out of my damn building, but I'm glad Lincoln Yards is coming, you know?
Yeah, right. Thank goodness. Yeah.
But these projects include new bridges over the Chicago River, a new metro station, an extension of the Bloomingdale Trail, everyone's favorite, the 606 park system.
Oh, thank goodness we extended that, because, you know, right. I don't know if the city could survive without extending that. And it's satisfying.
You know, Ben, you've gone too far when you make fun of the Bloomington Trail. Okay, I like it. I like to jog along it.
Water taxis, dedicated water taxis. Okay, guys. Like you said, we're in a pandemic, but man, please bring those water taxis.
But you can't go swimming. You can go in the water taxi. Don't go swimming, okay? If you go swimming, I will lock you up. Don't go swimming. But by the way, you were reading Block Club. I just want to point out that, yes, that TIF deal was passed during the last city council meeting of Rahm Emanuel's term. So it's really Rahm's TIF. But there was a lawsuit filed to obliterate it, and Lori Lightfoot sent in the lawyers to defeat that lawsuit. So I got to say it's Lori's deal as much as it's Rahm's at this point. Just saying.
Today's show brought to you by water taxis. And it says here, a potential light rail transit way and extension of the city's street grid. So that's all I got here in this story, Ben.
Okay. Well, can I just say a little something? I see we're almost out of time. Coincidentally, at the same time that this story was breaking, the county clerk, Karen Yarborough, sent out her annual TIF report. I have not had time to completely digest the report. It is a feeding frenzy for TIF geeks. As we speak, Tommy Tresser is in his room at home with his calculator. Let's see, carry the 2, 4, 5. I mean, this is just, this is where they.
I love that calculator bit, dude. I love it. Keep it around.
Yeah. Hold on, I think I broke it. I pounded it so much. I love this calculator. I've used this calculator to calculate so many TIF stories. Anyway, so this is where they tell you how much each TIF district is going to gather in the tax year. And it's a 2019 tax year, which means this year. You're going to ask, Ben, why is it the 2019 tax year if we're in 2020? Anything they can do to keep you confused, they will do when it comes to taxes, okay? So don't ask questions. But anyway, the city of Chicago, the TIF districts in the city of Chicago will gather $926 million in this year alone. That's up from $841 million last year. That is a lot of money. And that particular Cortland Chicago River TIF, it's in its first year of existence. It gathered $3.3 million, almost $3.4 million. Every year it's going to go up. Essentially, Sterling Bay, the big property tax, the big property owner in that area, instead of giving its property tax dollars to the city and the county and the school district, et cetera, is getting to spend it on himself, its own project. So good deal for them. Happy for them. Okay, but not a good deal for the rest of us. $926 million. That's the amount of money that's going to go into each TIF district. And yes, I rant and rail about it, D, because one, it drives up my property tax bill, which I managed to pay, thank you very much. And it drives up the amount I pay every year in property taxes without giving money to the things I really want to fund. Like public schools, like fire and police. Yes, I'm old school. I believe in having a police department, but I also believe in better training for the police department. So how about better training for the police department? Nope, no money for that, because it's going over to the TIFs. Pensions, take care of old people. Nope, can't take care of old people because it's going to the TIFs. Got a huge budget hole. Let's not even discuss the TIFs. Let's pretend they don't exist. Instead, let's talk about that bioengineering building they're building right near the Home Depot on the Chicago River. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to keep companies from leaving for Portugal or wherever they were going to go in the middle of the pandemic. So yeah, this report just came out, D. 926 million in Chicago, the TIFs. That's a lot of money. My advice to Lori Lightfoot, not that she's taking advice from me, is that she use as much of that money as possible to get us through the next year with the pandemic, pay off our basic obligations, because we're facing some serious challenges, obviously. But you got 926 million. And I would say dealing with the realities that people in Chicago are facing right now with potential evictions, with unemployment, with not knowing where the money is going to come in for a next month of expenses, dealing with that reality, not going to be able to go to school, dealing with that reality. And if you can't go to school, a lot of people can't go to work. So dealing with all that, the reality, I think is far more important than shoveling more money over to Sterling Bay. Let's spend some of that $926 million taking care of people in the city of Chicago who are struggling with the hard realities of this pandemic.
All right. Well, no surprise, our local news segment was taken up pretty much by Ben ranting on TIFs, but we have some Darren Bailey news, the Downstate Day Rep. We're going to be discussing that at the end of today's program because we got guests we got to talk to. All right. We got a cannabis conversation coming up here.
We do.
But we want to remind everybody to follow us on social media at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All right. You can do that. You can send us an email if you'd like. BennyJShow@gmail.com. In fact, our good friend David reached out to us on the email account. You can do the same, BennyJShow@gmail.com. I believe it was 2 days ago. We talked about the group against Pritzker, Illinois Rising Action. David sent us an email, said, Illinois Rising Action. More like Illinois lying assholes. Okay, David.
Come on, no, that was pretty
David,
good.
That was real good. Be like David. Send us a foul-mouthed email, BennyJShow@gmail.com. Also, we suggest, if you haven't yet, check out the latest Chicago Reader column from Ben Joravsky. This week, he's riffing on Bill Clinton. He's been doing it all week. Cut the cord. He says here, Ben says, I'm so over with this guy. That's right, Bill. We're breaking up. He's breaking up with Bill Clinton, guys. Go check out the latest Chicago Reader column from Ben Joravsky at thechicagoreader.com. And while you're at it, turns out, I mean, Ben earlier said he was old school. He can really take school out of that sentence. He's old. He's been doing these columns since the 90s, guys. So go check this out.
80s.
Okay, I was trying to help you, but yeah, okay, you're even older. Go check out his columns. Look at the Benny J archive. You can read his columns all the way back. I think this goes to like 1990. I think they were just, whoever was in charge of this was like, all right, I'm done for the day. This guy's done a lot of columns. So I think they capped it at about 1990, 91. A lot of very interesting articles. It's really cool, too, when you go back and look at, what Ben was talking about. And then, say you read something about, a politician who's doing something now. And, they're like Pat Quinn, for example. I know you've talked with Pat Quinn a few times in the 90s, and, then he became governor. It's just really interesting. So go check out the archive from Ben Joravsky as well. And you can leave us a voicemail. It's true. It's damn true. 708-658-4788. That number again, 708-658-4788. Call the Ben Joravsky Show. We're not going to answer, but leave us a voicemail. That's what we want you to do with this phone number. Leave us a voicemail, and there's a good chance we will play your voicemail on the program. All right, everybody, we're going to take a short little break here, and when we come back, we're talking all things reefer with Lisa Solomon of the Chicago Reader and Eddie Armstrong. It's another cannabis conversation. It's the Ben Joravsky Show, and we are live from my apartment where there's a lot of construction going on, some heavy-duty construction, and we are live from Ben's attic. Don't go anywhere.
There's a cop ride happening right now. Everything's about to blow.
Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show. Benny J, take it away.
Cannabis conversation time, the Ben Joravsky Show. As I do, I always bring on my partner in crime, Lisa Solomon, to introduce our guest. I'm so excited to talk to this guest. I talked to him for about a half hour last night, Lisa, maybe even more than that. But Guy is, in addition to being an expert on cannabis, a political junkie of the highest degree. So I'm really looking forward to getting into some political talk after we're done with the cannabis talk. Sort of like dessert for me. You understand what I'm saying, Lisa? It's like dessert for me. So as we always do with cannabis conversation, I ask you, Lisa, to introduce our guest, and we'll start, and you get to ask the first question. That's a courtesy we always extend to you.
So kind, Ben.
Introduced our guest.
Great. So before I introduce the guest, I just want to give the latest numbers for rec sales in Illinois. In July, sales reached almost $61 million, up 28% from the previous month. So the state is raking in the tax dollars. And now I will introduce our guest for today, Eddie Armstrong. So Eddie, I want to welcome you, and I'd love for you to tell the listeners how you went from being the Arkansas House Minority Leader to a cannabis entrepreneur living in Chicago. What brought you here? All right, Eddie, you might be muted.
Eddie Armstrong, are you there? I see his face, but I do not hear him talking. Eddie, are you there? Did you push mute on your button there? No? Can't hear me.
If you roll across the screen, there should be a microphone that comes up. All right. While we are waiting for Eddie, I'll share another piece of cannabis news, and that is that Mission Dispensary, which is in the South Shore, they were terribly looted. The dispensary was practically destroyed. They just reopened after a 2-month rebuild. So we're happy that patients in that area can get their medical cannabis again.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that in the paper, Lisa. Yeah, that whole area of the city, it's one of the most underserved areas of the city. So when they lost that dispensary is a big deal. Going back to what you said about the $61 million, that was just $61 million for the last month, correct? The month of July, right? Am I right about July? Or
yeah, that was in July. June was $47.5 million.
Yeah.
So the state is getting more and more money in there. I know Eddie's trying to hop back on. There he is.
Eddie Armstrong, are you there?
Yes, what a botch of an introduction. But Lisa, I heard your question. And Ben, thank you for having me on today. The power of technology. You just never know when you think you got it all right, you don't. But thanks for having me on. And to your question of what led me from politics to cannabis and my adopted city of the beloved Chicago and this great state of Illinois. I would just soon start with saying that my career has always and forever will be based in service. I started, very young with community service and leadership as my platform when I realized I wasn't making adequate grades. And then the background of my environment that I grew up in the mid-90s, you had Little Rock, Arkansas leading the country, unfortunately, as the murder capital of the world per capita. So the stories that I'm hearing today in Chicago and have been hearing over the few years I've been here are not unfamiliar to me, but I'm still committed to service. During my time, I've gone through service after growing up and surviving the inner city and went off to the University of Arkansas, where I was very active in student engagement there and was elected the second African-American president of the student body. And I went on from there to continue to organize and mobilize young people that had the same thought and mindset as I did, and seeking a way out of our environments to do good service by our communities to follow in the footsteps. So the university was really a proving ground to me, along with organizations like the Boys and Girls Clubs of America, where I served as their national spokesperson. And I just remember a time when there were people like then Governor Clinton striving to be our president, playing basketball with the likes of Arthur Agee. Ben, I know that you're very familiar and have written about their story, but trying to identify ways to bring hope and opportunity to young people like myself during a time where our friends were dying at a rapid pace, or you were scared to walk to school alone, and just taking that energy and plugging that into how I could impact my community. And more importantly, not be the only one out there. I mean, I wanted more young people that look like me to be engaged. And so I set out on a pathway to do that through high school, college, and was successful. And then nobody gets where they're going by themselves. So I had some great mentors and leaders pluck me and provide me opportunities to continue to work in the government affairs arena, where I went on to work in the poultry industry, which is now the largest meat producing company in the world, Tyson Foods. And I became a lobbyist for them. And then after that, I decided, that wasn't enough. So I sank my teeth deeper into my community and wanted to reinvest. And I mobilized a group of young people in the outset of the killing of Michael Brown in Missouri that really wanted to make an impact. They actually wanted to protest, which I don't think protesting is bad, but I wanted them to know that there were ways you could make an impact in your own community. So they created a voter mobilization effort, which then helped me become, their representative, and I won in a 3-way primary. And so all of that bag of goods has just been a consistent drumbeat of my appetite for service. While in office to lead to cannabis, I was preview to some things, and the family that I had married into, my father-in-law, who is a business savant and a leading medical physician in the gastroenterology sector, really started to look at different opportunities in his business space on how to diversify medicine and needs of the general public. And he opened a urine drug testing laboratory. And in his opening of that laboratory, I was able to gain a position and really started to look at the needs of all Americans that were really being impacted by opioids. And from that, Illinois, Southern Indiana, Northern Missouri, Southern Kentucky, Northern Arkansas, Louisiana, the state of Louisiana, were all heavily being impacted by this opioid crisis. And we were seeing that through our urine drug testing model. And simultaneously, in 2013, Illinois took a bite out of the apple and passed medical cannabis. And I was paying very close attention to that while serving in the House of Representatives. And meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., there was a former Speaker of the House that has gone on, Ben, and I know we'll get into this later.
Yes, we will.
That has gone and made pretty well and was a big proponent against cannabis, but has now been a victor of the spoils and is probably doing pretty successful on K Street with Anchorage. And he resigned from his speakership and resigned from his seat and stepped into the cannabis industry. And I looked at the opportunity as it related to my community and the things that had impacted us for so long through the war on drugs, through the opioid crisis, and now whether we choose to legalize cannabis or not on the federal level. And I wanted to get involved. So I stayed focused on service in the medical space. And as things started to shift in the medical space, while we were focused on compliance and really providing a service to the communities that needed it, cannabis started to boom. And we had a front row seat at how this was happening in Illinois, as well as in Arkansas. And that's when I started to get engaged, Lisa. And so from that point on, I made the conscious decision to step down as House Minority Leader and look to the hills for new opportunities in the cannabis industry in a state outside of Arkansas. And we decided to move to the beloved city of Chicago, in which I was introduced to in college and just can't get enough of this town, to really explore the opportunities around medical and now adult use cannabis. And as we moved here, things started to move rapidly through the legislative ranks in Illinois to legalize cannabis on an adult use basis. And we felt we were in the right space to create a company that provided a service to consult new groups that wanted to engage in applying for licenses to grow and or sell cannabis, but more importantly, to provide a vehicle that would allow for access to healthcare professionals and the general public investors that had an interest in investing in cannabis but didn't have an avenue to do so. So we wanted to meet that need, hence democratizing the green rush and the development of our equity crowdfunding platform, which does exactly that. We bring deals to our platform, we market those deals to investors, and investors will have an opportunity to invest in new budding companies, no pun intended or pun intended, that are coming into the cannabis industry space. Think of it as the picks and shovels VC for the gold rush. And we want to be that for the green rush through our crowdfunding platform, which we think is a real differentiator. But that's the short and sweet of what got me from politics, Arkansas, to now Chicago.
All right, Eddie, before I turn it back to Lisa to ask some questions about your business model, let me just say this. The man that Eddie Armstrong was alluding to was John Boehner, former Speaker of the House, a representative from Cincinnati, I want to say. Eddie, I'm doing this off the top of my head. I believe he's from Cincinnati. And he was adamantly against the legalization of marijuana for most of his political career. Was a leader of the Republican Party that resisted all efforts to legalize marijuana or cannabis. Is still, the Republican Party is still leading the way, opposition to federally legalizing cannabis. Just pointing all this out. And so this is me speaking, not Eddie Armstrong. The blatant hypocrisy of a Republican politician spending his entire career as a part of a party that is continuing a war on drugs, is locking up people, mostly black people, for doing something that everybody does, turning right around as soon as you can, going to the front of the line to make money off the legalized cannabis industry. Eddie Armstrong, I have a hard time sitting here. On our show, we do what we can to promote black entrepreneurs in the cannabis industry, because fair is fair, in my humble opinion. Black people got hit the hardest by the war on drugs all these years. So now it's legal. Now suddenly we've dropped the pretense that there's something really wrong with it. All these years we pretended there was something wrong with it. Now we're like, oh no, there's nothing wrong with it. John Boehner's in on it. So this is just.
That stands out to me right now. No, you're fine. And that stands out to me right now. You know, I mentioned at the outset that protests are justifiable. No different than, our Tea Party days of the Boston Tea Party. There was a protest for representation and taxation. That unrest brings out this opportunity for attention to be shined on things. And I took that perspective very seriously as an elected leader with constituents that may not have agreed with the devil's drug or this bad, omen on it. I'm a Southern, Black Baptist young boy raised with grandma that would, probably wear me out for having a joint. But all of that to be said, this industry is booming. Yes, it's an amazing opportunity for those that are engaged. It's a new industry with tons of money, as she just mentioned, 61 million, up 28%, expected to maybe hit $1 billion in 1 year in the state of Illinois. But who's making the money off of that? And I had to consciously look at how I could segue from this service to my constituents and bring the same type of service and opportunities into this industry right now that would give us an opportunity. Of course, we're going to make money in this space, but the medicine, the access to education, the therapeutic treatment, the things that really matter on it are things that, keep me grounded. And so if this plant or drug or product helps make people feel better, then why shouldn't it help people's bottom lines, and especially those that have disproportionately been impacted by it the most? I mean, story upon story of uncles murdered and family members serving prison time and very close friends, short of losing their lives and going to serve jail time over very small proportions of this product. in an illegal state. I understand, hey, it's illegal. You shouldn't break the law. You shouldn't run a stop sign. You should wear a seatbelt. Hence, you should wear a mask. If we make mandates, we should follow the rules of society. That's how we raise our children. That's how I'm governed. That is the key. But to cut out one proportion and only see another proportion continue to succeed as a new industry comes into the U.S. marketplace is just unacceptable. And that's exactly why I got in it, without throwing any shade on John Boehner. Hey, he's got a family to feed too.
Okay. Lisa, go ahead. Ask your question.
Okay, that takes me to the question. It's actually a two-part, and it's a big question. What does true social equity look like, and how can this crowdfunding platform that you're putting together support equity applicants and entrepreneurs?
It's a real interesting bag to unpack, but what does social equity look like? You know, here you have unrest in our streets and protests, and this protest isn't because people just want to come to Michigan Avenue and raid stores or go up north. It's because they're dealing with a lack of something that they feel like they will never get a piece of. So in anger and unrest, call it what you want. It's not the right thing to do, but they are crying out for something as well. And in this cannabis industry space, it's really pragmatic. At the outset of any company that's looking to incubate or put a company through its accelerator, from start to finish, it has to be a holistic approach of what that really means for developing generational wealth, establishing coaching, mentoring, and guiding these new social equity applicants into prosperity. It is not developing something and then putting guardrails on it that may set people up to fail. Very similar to what sometimes happens in corporate America when they create these diversity affairs positions, but the leader of that position lacks a budget or lacks the bandwidth to really put in the programs that are necessary. I think I have to give credence to Illinois for the way they approached it through the legislative body, as opposed to taking it to the ballot. And talking to Illinois experts that have been here, that were a part of helping to draft the legislation, that have been in the community, working through projects to make certain that minority communities are properly educated and prepared to go into business in this sector. It looks like financial equity being at the table. If a company that gets a license and can't build out, that companies or banks are prepared, or funding arms are prepared to assist them, either through the government or private parties. Mr. Pritzker, I'm sure, has a long list of relationships that could aid here. It looks like continuous observance and checking of making certain that any of these new businesses that are social equity applicants are consistently meeting their mark. You don't want to put them in a boat, tell them to go out on Lake Michigan and not give them the instructions on how to drive the boat or maintain if the boat goes out and they need to have some help come to them. So it is about putting in the right parameters for social equity to sustain itself, not just calling it something and then pulling it back and saying, oh, when they fail, we'll buy them up. And that's just another piece to our portfolio, which it's too early to call for me. In the state I come from, there was no social equity component to that, to the degree and extent that the state of Illinois did it. But I was a part of an extension that really worked hard at making certain that proportions of the social equity pieces stood out in their application, being women-led, being African-American led, having the right type of political and community involvement, education on build-out, the pharmaceutical and medical approach to how they were going to implement their processes to make certain that the products they brought to the marketplace really aided and assisted the patients that were applying for it. So there are a lot of things in the visual goals of what social equity should look like. And, you know, the top of the list is, you know, the financial access for these groups that may or may not be able to survive once they get the license. And if they get the license, then what's their 5-year plan look like? And how do they see a real opportunity that says, I'm from the South Side of Chicago, I've been an enthusiast my entire life, or I'm from the West Side, and I went to college to study this in agribusiness, and now I want to use my skills to make a sustainable company in my own community to help other people. what does that look like if they still lack the fortitude of financial opportunities to make that really come to life? So there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. I'm very impressed with what has happened here because, like I said, that didn't happen where I come from. There's a whole heap and help of things that happen in Arkansas that we could talk about for hours. But that's part of the reason I'm here is to see how this thing plays out, Lisa. It's a great question.
Yeah. Will your crowdfunding be able to help support some of these, or are you dealing solely with non-plant touching businesses?
That's a great question. It's a non-plant touching component. And what we, as I mentioned, the picks and shovels outside of the plant touching side of actually getting the gold or touching the plant. We looked at this opportunity after surveying the country, 20 or 200 physicians and healthcare professionals we put through focus groups. And in our Q&As, some things stood out resoundingly with all of these folks, and that was the lack of education, the lack of opportunity to know where to invest, if there were opportunities to invest in the next drug that was provided by GW Pharmaceuticals because of the federal parameters. What does that mean for future investments? We took all of those answers and we set out to carve our own lane out to provide access to, say, my uncle who's got a pension fund and he wants to put up $20K, or some of my friends in the investment world that are looking at $1 million plus to invest in any new startup. Our crowdfunding platform is specifically for those businesses that are non-plant touching, that are entering the marketplace, textile companies, institutions like universities. The Cleveland School of Cannabis is one that I could mention, that they're accredited, they're educating individuals. Chicago State University now has a track program. You're seeing certain medical schools pick this up. The AMA is discussing it. It is continuously gaining reverberation in corporate America. But how do you get those new companies in, help them raise the money they need to be successful, and then send them off to be a part of this booming, budding industry?
Right. So one of the issues we have with these license delays here, COVID made it harder. The state had so many more applications than they imagined. There was actually a letter sent to the state yesterday by the Cannabis Business Association of Illinois, asking the state to release some of the funds that they've acquired through the taxation to cover the costs of equity applicants waiting to hear about their licenses. Because the craft growers, I think they had to have specific sites locked in. These delays, they're bleeding cash.
Intimately involved. We are all in a very uncomfortable situation here in the state and the country with COVID and what it has done to curb this first and flatten it in a way that we can get to some sense of new business dealings. It won't be normal, but we have to get to some sense of a new normal. And I've sat in rooms of, conversations with one of the big three here that have sponsored these accelerator programs or incubator programs. And the plight is still the same. The longer we delay, we had certain requirements, and now we're pinned up against a pandemic. Banks that aren't banking it, and there are a few banks that are banking this. Let's end that myth. There are banks in this industry that are out there and viable, but the capital that is needed is a real issue. And now the state has to, and hopefully will step in to answer the bell in some way that doesn't allow for them to be left by the wayside and an opportunity that they put in a lot of work, time, and effort to get to. I mean, I know some of these people very close, and the issues are still real for them. Like, okay, we're going to get there, but we have no experience in raising real capital. And I say real capital is north of, $5 million. When you start looking at these craft grows and what they're going to cost to build out, the equipment that will be needed, the staff that will be needed to acquire expertise and service and SOPs and IP, that's a long list of future expenses that a lot of these applicants don't have. So there will need to be some relief there, or they've been, in my case, and in this case, I guess, set up to fail if you don't have those components in place.
That's very unfortunate. I'm going to let Ben take it over in just a minute. I know he's really itching to get onto the political topics, but I just want to say it's wonderful to hear an entrepreneur like you talk about the importance of the medical part, because in some states, when recreational was legalized, the medical program started to fall apart. And I really hope that there are many people like you that want to keep this medical program strong here in Illinois.
Well, you got to think about this. I come from a state that wanted to do away with Obamacare, and it was like a bad word in my home state. And what I witnessed while serving in the House of Representatives was a group of D's and R's sit at the table and figure out a real problem for a population of 3 million people. And the number of people that would have been impacted by Obamacare were like 250,000 patients. This is patients we're talking about. So medical cannabis, however you couch it to usher it into your state, okay, I get it. But let's not leave that by the wayside. These are still patients we're talking about. Physicians want to know how to treat these patients in the future. There was a recent article about COVID and vape smoking and pot smoking and the risk you face. That's no different than too much consumption of alcohol during this pandemic. I mean, or pills, if the side effects from those that we saw in the opioid crisis and we still see. The answer is, if we're going to call it medical or adult, it's the same plant. How do you continue to move the needle on educating the general public on the benefits and the risk for a plant like this? And then how do you highlight companies that are taking this plant and creating unique opportunities for CBD, CBG based products and textiles, hempcrete, sheets and towels that you can now utilize that are antimicrobial, antifungal, made from hemp. This is not new science to some degree, as we all know, pre-1930s. A lot of this was used as the American way of life. So let's look at the whole picture, but let's not forget from where we started. If we're going to call it medical, let's talk about those medical benefits and risk. And if we're going to talk about the adult use of it, let's do the exact same thing there too. So it's important to me, given the family background I come from and the regulatory and compliance background I come from in politics, that if not me, then who, to keep the drumbeat moving on exactly why, as we take the regulatory reins off of this plant or this drug, that we not look at the whole picture and really truly try to help the least of these that are getting engaged to be successful and benefit from it.
Yes.
All right, very good. Thank you, Lisa. All right, Eddie, I'm going to switch things to politics. I've been promoting this all day. Eddie Armstrong, before he got in the cannabis business, was a state rep in Arkansas. He was the leader of the Democratic Party in the state house. As such, he knows a thing or two about how Republicans behave when they're in the majority. He may go back to politics in a little while, so it's not completely out of Eddie's system, as he explained to me last night. Eddie, first question I have for you is a gentleman from Arkansas. We talk a lot about Senator Tom Cotton, and I know he's a political peer of yours, roughly the same generation. He is the senator from Arkansas, and as such, he's positioning himself as sort of the heir to Donald Trump's style of politics. He's already come out and essentially advocated a whole new approach to viewing slavery, Eddie Armstrong, as though it were the founding fathers had endorsed it because it was a necessary evil. So he is already sort of taking the mantle of Donald Trump and the Donald Trump revolution and trying to claim it as we move on. What's your dealings been with Tom Cotton, and do you share my concern about what would happen if he gets more power than he already has?
I want to dial back, Ben, and just simply say that the segue from cannabis to politics or politics to cannabis is something that, I've thought long and hard about. For listeners that say, how does an elected official go from politics into cannabis and hopefully have a future in politics again? I am raised of the Clinton era. Witnessed hope and an opportunity in my home state under he and his wife when I was a very young boy, and they attended my church and all that good stuff. And I've just seen somebody like him, as they coined the comeback kid, come back from far worse. And my position on cannabis will always be the same, that it is a conduit to my extension of service. I just want to go on record for that. And speaking of service, and the senator from the great state of Arkansas, I recognize, Ben, that we all have our own opinions. And our job as elected officials, starting from me carrying my mayor's bag when I was 16, was that it's always and will forever be about the point of view of the people that we represent, the voter, and not about our own point of view. And it seems that the senator has chosen the latter, and to me, that's dangerous. When you take the oath of office and you've gained all of the votes from the constituents that have taken your word that you will represent their interest. Now, mind you, it wasn't one group's interest, it was all the people he campaigned for, and that's a different bag. And I must say that, going to the University of Arkansas and speaking to the Kappa Sigs and the Phi Deltas and the Black community and Hispanic students, it taught me that there was a whole bag of people out here that I was representing, and I could not lose sight of that if I wanted to adequately represent their interest on our campus or in my community as I became state representative. But it seems that our senator has taken a position that is maybe one of his own or of the mantra of our president, and that wasn't who he was when I was in Boy State. And his dad was a part of the mentoring program there. And to see that you could take a personal point of view, it's dangerous. And I see it as wrong anytime you have a problem that needs to be solved or resolved in each state. California had a budget crisis. Illinois couldn't pass a budget. Arkansas, lowest in education and healthcare. I mean, there are several different issues for each state. And those are problems that elected officials have the challenge to resolve or figure out an opportunity to make it better. In Arkansas, we took Obamacare, we made it Arkansas Works, call it something different, but we're still providing health care, insurance, and services for the least of those farmers, women, young people. Our governor then, Mike Huckabee, created Our Kids First. These were programs that were established to help people that spoke about their problems. And when you lose track of that, I think you lose track of your way. And the only way to get out of all of this is to not do away with acknowledging the problem. The problems that our constituents have is what we should do first, acknowledge them, and then try and find ways to resolve them. When you step away from the problems that we have in the first place and don't acknowledge them, then you're doing yourself and our constituents a disservice. And when I see Senator Tom Cotton say something, to the tune that, systematic racism doesn't exist, or, the loot and shoot, or, going off about the New York Times piece and gaining light for that, as opposed to really talking about the issues that hamper the 3 million people in our great state back home in Arkansas, I know that we've lost our way some way. And I think that, he has his right to his own opinion, but I just know retail politics, door to door, whether it's gone or not because of the pandemic, the people of Arkansas, the people of Illinois, Missouri, Indiana, any of these states, at the end of the day, it's about what you can do to continue to help them, not through maybe a subsidy program, but just be their representative and not be someone advantageous for the light because of the timing. And, I just challenge that. I say to the senator, don't forget about where you came from. That's what I was always taught. And, while he may represent the voice of a few, that's not the whole sum of the great state of Arkansas. And it's not the sum of our country to that degree right now. And scare tactics and fear and, choice words, they have their way of moving into homes and swaying votes. And we have to get away from that and really line ourselves back to the principles of trying to help our community, our neighbors, our citizens have true representation, whether that be in city council, the state house, the Senate, or the U.S. government. So I don't know. Tom Cotton's got his work cut out for him.
He certainly does. He needs to do a 180, in my humble opinion. I don't know his roots the way you do. I just know him as a figure on the national stage, Eddie. I get somehow or other, I get his emails on a regular basis. Not sure how that happened, but I get Tom Cotton emails, and his rhetoric is strident. Everybody on the Democratic Party, he pretty much labels as a lefty radical, which is kind of funny because I know I have my differences with so many Democrats. You know, I am on the left, and to put somebody like Nancy Pelosi in the same boat as me or Lori Lightfoot is really not fair to either one of us. But that's the tactic they're doing.
Well, you have to be careful of name calling, and my mother always told me, be careful of what you say. Be mindful of who you call out, and who are you? And I understand that stage. I cut my teeth in Washington, D.C., and I came back to my home state because I realized I had opportunity there. And I worked through that process. And Tom Senator did exactly what he needed to do. He went away for college. He served in the military. He's done his bit. But when you get to the real pragmatic approach of who understands the dynamics that exist on the red side or the blue side, everybody out there has a voice. You have to be able to take the differences of all of those voices, in my opinion. I'm not telling him how to do his job. This is what I envision for my future. Take the differences of all of those voices and develop not only myself, but encourage other young leaders to follow you that can, motivate and have the ambition to really try and figure out the hard problems that our people face. I mean, this won't go away. There will forever be issues, problems, and opportunities in our great country. But what has made us this country is being able to overcome each and every one of them we face. As an African American, I'm about being able to bring my services to underrepresented groups and making certain that they're represented. I don't think that in my study of history, a lot of what I've seen was ever really uniformly approached in a way that really pushed the needle of commitment to make a difference in the African American community and be a part of addressing their narrative. If so, my Republican colleagues would have, should have, could have adopted the opportunity to admit whatever wrongs that were done after African Americans were such a strong part of their party. And my Democrat, former Dixiecrat colleagues can do the exact same thing, as opposed to a, we need you now, or we don't need you at all, and we'll just go about it our own way. Hence Senator Tom Cotton's, alienation of, a group of people, which if he says he doesn't think systematic racism exists, I feel like he's alienating me and several of his friends and maybe former, buddies that see that differently. So there's just a call for leadership like none other right now in our country. And right now, I think we need some healing in our country. People are truly ready to move forward. And divisive leadership is not helping this process on any front. It just isn't. Now, I'm saying all of this. How do you fit into a party on either side that makes that the narrative, as opposed to what we got going on right now? And that's where Joe Biden comes in. I'm just raised in a society and in a generation that hope and opportunity were real. I was able to take advantage of some of those opportunities and make good on my success track. And it wasn't just any one black person or white person that helped me. It was a collective group of people. And there was no party label on that. And I feel like our country deserves people that were impacted in that way to give that back to their communities or their states or their government.
Eddie, I want to ask you a question about what it was like being the head of the Democrats in the state house when the Republicans were in control. Now in the state of Illinois, the Democrats run the state house. Michael Joseph Madigan is the House Speaker. He runs, and I've had Republicans complain to me for a long time about how Madigan is not fair to them. He won't give their legislation a hearing, et cetera, and so forth. What is it like? Just so my Republican friends in Illinois might hear what it's like to be the head of the Democrats in a legislature controlled by Republicans. Were the Republican leaders open-minded about your legislation? Were they tolerant of your legislation? Did they give it a hearing, or did they bottle it up in committee and throw it in the garbage? How did they treat you?
I must say that I did get my share of flexing of the muscle from my colleagues on the right side of the aisle when I assumed the post of minority leader. And what I mean by that, let me paint this picture. The great state of Arkansas, for 100 years in the legislative branch, served under the rule of the Democratic Party, which meant that a lot of the succession of leadership and how the party picked its ticket and where the funds went were controlled from the governor's office down. And the party had some play in that. Well, we had just elected a new president of the country, and his name was Barack Obama. And this was a thankless job, but I had experience at organizing and mobilizing people through my lobbying experience for Tyson Foods. And I used those skill sets to really begin to work within my own Democratic caucus. And what I witnessed was, we went from fiscal conservatives and Christian conservatives to Tea Party conservatives to a Trump movement that was starting to blossom. And none of them had really had a bite at the apple of real success, like the whole thing's ours. You've seen this whole wave come over the country, and legislative offices across the country were now in majority Republican rule. Governors across the country were now in majority rule. And as the minority leader of then 36 members, we witnessed, because of some of our political maneuvering just to gain access to leadership on certain committees or stack a certain committee, that some of our payback under the dome or inside the Capitol would be a immediate stop on certain legislation that certain members brought. And I never forget, I brought a very non-controversial bill to a particular committee in our first active weeks of presenting legislation in the State House. And my bill got a no. They killed my bill on arrival. It was a real rush through committee. My first bill failed. I had 3 bills I was running that day. My second bill failed. And I remember the committee chairman saying, well, Representative Armstrong, you want to give your third swing, 3 strikes, you're out. And I was like, what the heck? These are non-contro bills, but I've seen the first positioning of my colleagues to really start to strong-arm government because they had the opportunity to do so. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't seen a lot of that wear off. It's been more perpetuation of it as opposed to, I take that back. In certain instances, like Obamacare, where you had candidates that ran adamantly to repeal and replace Obamacare, once they got into the State House and realized the true impact for the constituents they represented, their tone became a little less boisterous on repeal and replace and more on how can we make this more conducive to our constituents. So I can't throw everybody in one lump bag, but in this particular committee, they definitely made me eat humble pie to say, we are the new game in town, and let your members know that. So we just had to become really creative on how to orchestrate the backroom opportunities that were in our face in order to get anything accomplished in that legislative period. Yeah. Today, it's much worse. To some degree, I don't know which way they're going, up, down, left, right, but, there are a few things that, really make states thrive, and that's education, safety, healthcare, infrastructure. And, if states can get the budget, if states can really hone in on that and less of some of these social issues that tear us apart, there's hope.
Well, as you experienced firsthand in Arkansas, Republicans play hardball politics. They play to win. I talked about it earlier in the show. I won't bring it back, but just what the Republicans and operatives are doing in Wisconsin to put Kanye West's name on the ballot. Just sort of displays it full force. I urge everybody to check out that story if you haven't seen it already. They play to win, Eddie. You know that from your experience.
Do they play to win, though? I mean, is it really a play to win? I've got really good Republican friends, and some of this is unorthodox. To the general public, it looks like a play to win, but it's an unorthodox sense of madness sometimes, and it works out for my Republican colleagues. I had great friends that switched parties out of political necessity. And I dare not give them all this credit of strategizing to play to win. I think we have a situation where the pendulum has truly swung one way. And those that are smart and strategic on either side will sustain themselves through this period we're in. I can't say they play to win. I mean, they're playing right now because they are winning. But I told you I came from a state where it was really controlled one way. And you know what? Those Democrats were not far left liberal leaning Democrats. Those are more middle of the road conservative Democrats in the state of Arkansas. Think of Mike Beebe, who was the golden child of the party and, you know, the most popular governor in the country during his time when he was governor. Think about Clinton in his time and what he was able to do. So I can't say that it's a play to win strategy as opposed to really kind of, you know, I feel like sometimes it's flying by the seat of the pants, and now they've got so many multiplicities within their party that where do you even identify yourself?
Yeah. All right, Eddie, we have to end this conversation and end the show for today. I'd love to bring you back to talk more politics. Particularly love to have a debate with you about William Jefferson Clinton. I'm going through some struggles with Bill Clinton right now. I know you have a different perspective than I do because you're from the state of Arkansas and you probably know him well. I am sick and tired of Bill Clinton being a figurehead in the Democratic Party. And I have voted for him, just so you know this, Eddie. I just want to let you know, 3 times I've had the opportunities to vote for Clintons, and I'm 3 for 3 on those opportunities, all right? But I've just had it with Bill. Not Hillary, but Bill. But that's a conversation for another day. I'm sort of teasing that as a conversation we could have.
Cannot wait.
Cannot wait to have the great debate, Eddie Armstrong debate. Eddie, if folks want to get in touch with you or learn more about your company, how can they do so?
Sure. You know, we're on most of the social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, as the Cannabis Capital Group. You can find our website at thecannabiscapitalgroup.com. You know, and again, this is about us being able to provide a vehicle in which those that may not have ever had an opportunity to get involved in this industry to get involved. And as it relates to politics, let's go. I think this is a real interesting time. It's a much needed opportunity for us to take a long look at where we want our country to be. And I look forward to being back on your show, Ben.
All right, good. Very good. Thank you very much, Eddie Armstrong. Lisa, before I let you go, any updates for my beloved Chicago reader?
I just want to thank Eddie quickly for coming on. It was great. And anyone who would like to see some of the amazing books and other products we have available to help support the Chicago Reader, go to chicagoreader.com/support. And Ben's book is going to be joining that site sometime in the near future. His best of articles he worked so hard on.
Yes, I worked too hard on that. Too much angst and anxiety, Lisa, was dealt to that thing. I'm glad I got through it. All right, thank you very much, Lisa. Thank you very much, Eddie Armstrong. Dr. D, before we head out the door, got any updates for us?
Absolutely, I do. A few updates here. First off, in non-political related news, I'm not sure if you heard the news or not yet, Ben Joravsky, but Jim Boylan is going to still be the Bulls coach. They're keeping him. You heard that?
No. You got to be kidding me.
No, sir.
I did not hear that.
The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and our dear friend Joe Colley. Looks like we got a reason to bring him on the show again.
Joe, come back. You're coming on next. I can't believe this. I was mad about the tiffs. I was mad about Tom Cotton. You're kidding me.
Yeah, it's not your day here, dude.
Oh, my God.
Go to bed early. Just end it as soon as you can. It says here the NBA bubble is going strong and will stick around for a while. So, apparently, will Jim Boylan. Yeah. So, hang tight, non-sports fans here. It says here, let me look here.
Oh, God.
Yeah, we don't need to read anymore. You get it. Yep, Boylan's sticking around.
I'm just going to say this to all my listeners out there who are not sports fans. Let me just tell you this. My beloved Chicago Bulls were terrible last year. Absolutely terrible. Okay? The players didn't like the coach. The coach seemed like a nice guy, but he didn't know what he was doing. They brought on new management. They go, we're going to be a whole new Bulls team. I'm all excited. And then they keep the coach. I don't know what to say. What am I more upset about? All that money going to Lincoln Yards or Jim Boylan still being? You know what? Lincoln Yards is worse, D.
Yeah,
all right? Lincoln Yards is worse.
Shout out to Jim on the live stream chat. He says, I just ruined Ben's week. Yeah, I'm afraid I did, Jim.
Jim, you're really...
Triple J says Ben's going to start smoking reefer again.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. I'm going to have to go back to reefer. Another year with Jim Boylan as coach. We're going to go this way. We're going to go that way. God, my beloved Bulls. What do you guys want to lose? Is that it? You know, you say, how far do we have to go before we lose Ben as a Bulls? I think that's what the strategy is. Let's see what we got to do to lose Ben. Everybody I know is laughing at me. Well, I get texts from friends. Oh, I'm rooting for the Lakers. I love the Lakers. Everybody loves the Lakers, you know, and I'm still a Bulls fan. They laugh at me.
All right.
Oh, my God.
So, Ben, sorry to bum you out, but yeah, that Boylan guy's sticking around.
I was like, I barely got over that TIF thing, you know.
But hey, maybe this will cheer you up. Maybe this will cheer you up. We got a Madigan Gate update.
Ooh, okay. A Madigan Gate update. All right. Let me guess. Somebody came out and said, I am calling on the speaker to step down. No?
Well, yes, it is. And no, not Will Gazzardi again. But Madigan Gate, for those who may not know, that's the time utility giants Commonwealth Edison admitted to arranging jobs, contracts, and payoffs to Democratic Illinois House Speaker Mike Madigan's associates. But if you ask Mike Madigan, he did nothing wrong, so it's allegedly. The second, it says here, a second member of State Party Central Committee calls on Madigan to resign. Iris Martinez, senator, was the first. Ben Joravsky, would you like to take a guess as to who the second is?
Oh, my God. You're really catching me off guard. Peter Janko.
Not Peter Janko. It's Carol Ronan.
Oh, Carol Ronan, former state senator from the north side of Chicago. Okay.
Wow, you're a huge nerd. Yes, that's exactly what she is. She posted it on Twitter here. Let me look through here and find she had a tweet saying that she's wanting Madigan to step down. Oh, here we go. Carol Ronan, Speaker Madigan should resign. Leadership posts, Illinois Dems bigger than one person. At Dems for Illinois has excellent diverse leaders for victory without distractions. We win when we stand for something bigger than ourselves, not one individual.
Well, Carol Ronan was a state senator for several years on the north side of Chicago, as I said, and her replacement, the woman who came afterwards, Heather Staines, who was perhaps, I think Heather may have been the first elected official to urge, Democrat elected official, I say. Republicans have been urging him to step down forever. So like the credibility on this matters a little. But anyway, so I guess I can't be surprised that much that Carol Ronan.
All right. And we didn't cover it in the news because, surprise, surprise, our host, Ben Joravsky, talked for like 25 minutes about TIFs. Ben calls him DB. And once again, listeners, no, that does not stand for douchebag. It stands for Darren Bailey. He's the downstate representative out of Clay County who's been needling our Illinois governor, J.B. Pritzker, since the pandemic began. DB has made the local news again. Illinois Governor J.B. Well, this comes from NBC5 Chicago, by the way. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is once again lashing out at State Rep Darren Bailey, DB, after the downstate lawmakers sought for a judge to rule that the governor was in contempt of court and that he should be jailed. Wow. This dude.
Ooh, they don't play, man. Hey, we're just talking to Eddie Armstrong about Arkansas Republicans. Eddie, Republicans in Illinois, they don't play.
According to court records, Pritzker is facing what is known as a, quote, indirect civil contempt motion in connection with a lawsuit filed by Bailey in Clay County. The motion accuses the governor of ignoring prior orders by the court and says he should be held in contempt for continuing to issue executive orders in connection to the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. The motion seeks to have Pritzker held in contempt of court and to be imprisoned in the Clay County jail, quote, until he purges himself by rescinding the above-mentioned executive orders. Pritzker all but scoffed at a question about the motion, saying that Bailey's court victories in Clay County have been repudiated in numerous other Illinois courts. Pritzker said, quote, all I can say is the rulings in Clay County have been ridiculous. There's no There's no other court that has ruled as they have on the matter that they ruled on. In fact, there's a judge on Friday who specifically pointed to Clay County and said that the decision by that judge was bereft of any legal analysis. And I think that's accurate. Ben Joravsky, do you think that's accurate?
Yes. You're crazy. That's that Judge Michael McHaney.
Dude, when are we going to do our live broadcast in Clay County? That's all I'm asking.
Come on. Invite us down, DB. Actually, they'll probably throw us in jail.
I was going to say, the time Dennis and Ben went to jail. That would be a great podcast.
Yeah, DB, they would discover marijuana in our... Look at this. Get them in jail. But it's legal in Illinois, not in Clay County. Hey, folks, this is why I always say I have a lot of sympathy for J.B. Pritzker, the governor of the state of Illinois. Lori, you got it easy, okay? You say the schools won't open and everybody's mad at the teachers union. You got it easy. No one's mad at you. I hate the teachers union. Oh, the damn teachers union. Without them, there would be no coronavirus. That's kind of the theme. So, but JB's got to deal with Republicans who want to throw him in jail. All right, Lori Lightfoot, you should every day you should wake up and go, thank goodness the worst I have to deal with is the Chicago Teachers Union. They're not trying to throw me in jail. JB Pritzker's got to deal with DB and his pal, the Hang'em High judge, Michael McHaney. They want to throw him in jail. D, guaranteed, we go down to Clay County, you and I are going to prison. All right, get in that jail.
I don't know, man. It'd be worth the excellent content of two podcasters going to jail live on the show. That'd be pretty cool.
I would have to disagree with you.
Come on.
I am not ready to go to Pat Whalen. Could you go to jail for me? Like, can I get a sub to go to jail? Pat Whalen. Anyway, what more can I say than the Republican Party in the state of Illinois is out of its collective mind. They've just lost all sense. You know, guys, this COVID thing is for real. It affects you too. Forget it, DB. Between Jim Boylan, DB, the Tiffs, and the beaches are closed, but the restaurants are open. It's not been a good day for me, D. I just got to say. But I want to say this.
What?
We have some Jeffrey Epstein conversation coming up. Leonard Goodman. We'll be doing an interview with Leonard Goodman, which will drop next week or the week. Our schedule is so off because we're taking the week off and we're backlogging these interviews that we usually drop at the end of the day. So the doctor and I will have to figure out when the Leonard Goodman interview will. But I'm looking forward to that conversation.
Be on the lookout for our Leonard Goodman interview. It's always a great time talking with Leonard Goodman. Oh, and it looks like I have a quote here from Darren Bailey in response to all this. Hold on, let me look here. Darren Bailey said, quote, "Who's going to feed them hogs?"
That's correct.
DB, he's going to throw Pritzker in jail. Hey, JB, I'm just giving you a little advice. Stay out of Clay County. The Angham High Judge is looking for you.
That's insane. So insane. I can't believe that's Illinois, man. Only in Illinois.
Illinois is crazy. Illinois is insane. There's no doubt about it. We're kind of a little wacky here in Chicago as well, D. Remember, one more time. You can go to the restaurant on the beach, but you can't go to the beach. Got that? Instead, we're going to send everybody over to Belmont Harbor. Just take a dive into the gasoline-laced waters and dodge the boats as they go by.
Yeah, and shout out to Jim on the live stream chat. He says, I don't know, maybe J.B. Pritzker would give you two guys a pardon. Yeah, I don't think he'll have our back either, really.
No, I don't think so. We pretty much alienated every politician in the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago, D. And it's anyway. What
I don't think he will. I don't know why, but I just don't think he will.
And for the record, I'm not a perfect person.
Yeah, he would. I don't know. I don't know if anybody would come to our.
Those douchebags? Yeah, keep them in there.
The one thing J.B. Pritzker and DB agree on, throw Ben and Dennis in. Get into that stuff. All right, so that's our show today, everybody. I want to thank Eddie Armstrong and Lisa Solomon for coming on, being great guests, and of course, I want to thank the man, the myth, the legend, the pride and joy of Alton, Illinois, without whom this show would be possible. And as Eddie Armstrong could tell you, as Lisa could tell you, as J.B. Pritzker could tell you, as DB himself would tell you, back home in Alton, they call him Dr. D. Keep yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everyone.
Hey, and remember, everybody, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows, Benny J bonus interviews, and so much more at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites and wherever else you download your favorite podcast. Guys, there's over like 600 episodes of this show, all right? So I'm sure there's some that you've missed. Go catch up and download those interviews. Live stream chat. Go check them out as well. And if you're listening on the download, be sure to join us live Tuesdays through Fridays, 1 until 3 p.m. Central Time on the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel and YouTube. Just go check it out, everybody.
Around. I'm going to shut it off, I'm going to kick you out, and I'm going to make you walk home.
Play the radio. Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night. The phone. Make sure the kids hear words.